Welcome back to English Flow. Can I ask you a question? How many times have you told yourself, I'll start speaking English when my vocabulary is better? Or maybe, I'll speak when my grammar improves. Or, I'll start when I feel more confident. I used to tell myself those things all the time. In fact, for a long time, I wasn't really learning how to speak English. I was preparing to speak English. There's a big difference. Every day I learned new words. I watched videos. I listened to podcasts. I studied grammar. And I kept telling myself that one day, after enough preparation, I would finally be ready. The problem was, that day never came. No matter how much I learned, I still felt unprepared. I still felt nervous. I still felt like my English wasn't good enough. Maybe you've experienced the same thing. Maybe you're waiting for some future version of yourself, a version with perfect grammar, a version with a bigger vocabulary, a version that never makes mistakes. I understand, because I spent a long time waiting for that person too. Today, I want to tell you about the day I realized something important. You don't become ready first and then start speaking. You start speaking first, and then you slowly become ready. That lesson changed everything for me. My first problem was fear. Looking back, I don't think my biggest problem was vocabulary. I don't think it was grammar either. My biggest problem was fear. Not a huge fear, not the kind you feel when you're in danger. A quieter fear. The fear of sounding foolish. The fear of making mistakes. The fear of forgetting words in the middle of a sentence. The fear of being judged. Because of that fear, I created a habit. Whenever I had a chance to speak English, I found a reason not to. I need to learn more first. I need more vocabulary. My pronunciation isn't good enough. Those reasons sounded logical, but they were really excuses. And the worst part? I believed them. The question that changed my thinking. One evening, I was listening to an English learner talking about his journey. He said something simple. He said, "How can you learn to speak if you never speak?" That's it. One sentence, but it stayed in my mind. The next day, I kept thinking about it. I realized something uncomfortable. I was spending most of my time learning about English, but very little time actually using English. Imagine someone who wants to learn football. They watch matches every day. They read books about football. They learn the rules, but they never step onto the field. Would they become a good player? Probably not. At some point, they have to play. English is the same. At some point, you have to speak, even when you're not ready. My first real speaking practice. The funny thing is, my first speaking practice wasn't with another person. It was with myself. I was alone in my room. I looked around and started describing things. The door is closed. My phone is on the table. I'm sitting in a chair. Very simple sentences, nothing impressive, but something felt different. For the first time, I wasn't studying English, I was using it. At first, I could only speak for a few seconds. Then I stopped because I didn't know what to say. A week later, I could speak for 30 seconds, then a minute, then longer. My English wasn't becoming perfect, but it was becoming active. And active English is much more useful than English that only lives inside a notebook. I learned something about confidence. Before that, I believed confidence came first. I thought, once I feel confident, I'll speak. But reality taught me the opposite lesson. Confidence came after speaking. Every small speaking session made me slightly less nervous, not because my English suddenly improved, but because my fear became smaller. I discovered that confidence is built through action, not waiting, not thinking, not planning. Action. Before we continue, I want to say something important. I'm still learning English. Some days I speak more confidently than others. Some days I still forget words. Some days I still pause in the middle of a sentence. That hasn't completely disappeared. The difference is that it doesn't stop me anymore. 2 years ago, I thought making mistakes meant I wasn't improving. Now I see mistakes differently. I see them as proof that I'm actually using English. And that's much better than keeping perfect English locked inside my head. I stopped chasing perfect grammar. There was a time when grammar controlled everything I said. Before I opened my mouth, I asked myself questions like, is this the correct tense? Should I use a or the? Is this sentence grammatically correct? By the time I finished thinking, the conversation had already moved on. One day I noticed something while watching interviews in English. Native speakers didn't always speak in perfect sentences. Sometimes they paused, sometimes they changed a sentence halfway through, sometimes they repeated themselves. That surprised me. I had imagined that fluent speakers never hesitated. But real conversations are not like textbooks. They're full of small pauses, corrections, and unfinished thoughts. That gave me permission to stop trying to sound perfect. Instead, I focused on one goal: be clear. If people understand my message, then communication has happened, and that's the real purpose of language. A small victory I'll never forget. One afternoon, I needed to explain something in English. Halfway through my sentence, I forgot an important word. A few months earlier, I probably would have stopped talking. I probably would have switched back to my first language. But this time I tried something different. I described the word instead. It wasn't the exact word I wanted, but the other person understood me. After the conversation, I realized something. Communication isn't about knowing every word. It's about finding a way to keep going. That moment gave me much more confidence than memorizing 50 new vocabulary words. The power of speaking every day. People often ask, how long should I practice speaking? My answer is simple. Practice as often as you can. When I first started, I thought I needed long conversations. Now I know that's not true. 1 minute matters. 5 minutes matter. Even 30 seconds matter. The important thing isn't having a perfect conversation. The important thing is reminding your brain, we use English every day. Little by little, English stops feeling like a school subject. It starts feeling like part of your life. And that's when real progress begins. What I'm still learning. Sometimes people leave comments saying, I'll start speaking when my English is good. Whenever I read that, I smile, because I used to say exactly the same thing. If I could sit next to that version of myself today, this is what I'd say. You don't need permission to practice. You don't need perfect grammar. You don't need thousands of words. You only need the courage to start. That's still something I'm learning. Even today, there are moments when I feel nervous. There are conversations where I wish I had spoken better. But instead of thinking, I failed, I now think, That was practice. That one change has made learning English much more enjoyable. Today's learning moment. Today's word is hesitate. Hesitate means to pause before doing or saying something because you're unsure or nervous. For example, I hesitated before speaking English. Don't hesitate to ask questions. Pronunciation. Tate. The stress is on the first syllable. If you hesitate while speaking English, that's normal. Every learner does it. The goal isn't to never hesitate. The goal is to keep speaking after the hesitation. Today's English challenge. Here's a challenge you can do today. Set a timer for 2 minutes. Imagine you're talking to a new friend in English. Introduce yourself. Talk about where you're from, what you're studying, what you enjoy doing, why you're learning English. If you forget a word, don't stop. Describe it. If you make a mistake, keep going. Remember, the challenge isn't to speak perfectly. The challenge is to keep speaking. When the 2 minutes are over, smile. You just gave your English another chance to grow. Question of the day. I'd love to hear your answer. What makes you hesitate when speaking English? Is it grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, or are you worried about making mistakes? Tell me in the comments. Your answer might encourage another learner who feels exactly the same way. Before we finish, there's one final thought I'd like to leave you with. Imagine 2 English learners. The first learner knows 3,000 words but is afraid to speak. The second learner knows 1,000 words but uses them every day. Who do you think will improve faster? I believe it's the second learner, not because they know more, because they use what they know. That's the lesson I wish I had learned sooner. Learning English isn't about waiting until you feel ready. It's about becoming ready by practicing. One sentence today, another sentence tomorrow. One conversation next week. Little by little, those small moments become a habit. And one day, you'll notice something amazing. You're speaking English without thinking about every single word. Not because you're perfect, but because you kept showing up. That's what I'm trying to do. And if you're listening today, I think that's what you're trying to do too. So let's keep learning together. One conversation, one mistake, one small victory at a time. Thank you for listening to today's episode of English Flow. If this episode encouraged you, please leave a like. It helps more English learners find this channel. And if you'd like to continue this journey with me, subscribe for new episodes where I share the lessons, struggles, and discoveries from my own English learning experience. Until next time, keep learning, keep speaking, and remember, you'll never feel completely ready to speak English, but every time you speak, you'll become a little more ready than you were yesterday. Goodbye, everyone.